This is Danny Flexen for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined once again by Lou Dibella for the latest Dibella's Digest. And Lou, I always ask you how your week's been, but I believe you've been quite literally under the weather this week.
Well, yeah, not personally, but my house has been under the weather. A lot of my basement was underwater. So, but luckily, actually, we didn't get the full hit of the hurricane that passed through here. We just got about a ridiculous amount of rain and water, but we didn't get the trees uprooted or the winds we expected, and I didn't lose power. So I'm grateful to have made it through. But it was another eventful week.
I'm glad it waited until after your show was in the books before it decided to hit. And with that neat segue, how was the show? How was it received? And how satisfied were you with how it turned out?
I thought it was a terrific show. The main event turned out to be highly, highly competitive. We lost the fight at the last minute. Bustos, who had her visa, couldn't get into the country, couldn't get her passport stamped. I mean, it's really become this Delta variant and the immigration issues that are surrounding travel right now have made it very, very difficult to move fighters around. And so there was a big economic hit in losing that fight, because I had invested a lot of money in non-refundable airfares, in getting Bustos a visa. So that was very disappointing. But then we wound up having some excellent fights. Diana Prezek, for a woman that had been off for a number of years, had one fight to get back in the ring before this title fight. I mean, she was a trailblazer. She was one of the top female boxers in Australian history. But I didn't expect her to get into the ring and look like the woman that she was in her prime. But she did, and it was a terrific fight. And Kaylee Reese really had to gut it out to get the win. And it was a close fight. So it was an excellent main event. Alma Ibarra and Candy Wyatt was a very good fight. Alma looked sensational again. I'm really looking forward to when she gets her opportunity to fight Jessica McCaskill. And Elvis Garcia, watching a heavyweight go down from 260 to 222 pounds. And actually, I think he weighed under 220 at the weigh-in for this fight. Wow. But to watch a guy lose, 42 pounds, he really took, and he had COVID too. He actually had COVID. But he spent an incredible amount of time and effort to reshape his body. And it really, I think, is paying dividends. He's a much faster fighter right now. I mean, he always was a boxer, not really a puncher. He was a small heavyweight. And he's still a small heavyweight, and he's still going to campaign at heavyweight. But he just won a Bridgerweight belt that should get him into the Bridgerweight rankings. And that's another place that could provide opportunity to him. Because, say, whatever you want to make fun of Bridgerweight or the name or whatever, there are a lot of guys that are sort of in that, they're above cruiserweight. They're too big to be cruiserweights, but it's hard for them to compete with 6'6", 260-pound men. And, now Elvis has gone from being a 6'1", 260-pound man to a 6'1", 220-pound man. And I think that's tremendous credit to him. And he looked much quicker, much more agile, a better fighter at this weight.
So you could say some of Elvis has left the building.
Some of Elvis has left the building, indeed.
You can use that. It's fine. I don't mind.
Thank you, Danny.
From the fighters you promote to who may be your favorite fighter who you don't have under contract, I am, of course, talking about Jake Paul. You love him so much. I'm starting to think he may be some sort of love child from your.
No, it's not that I love. It's not that I love him so much. It's just, it's interesting. It's a Jake Paul fight week. Okay, he put Daniel Dubois on a card in the U.S. Okay, that Daniel's with Frank. With Frank. Tommy Fury's on the card because I think they're probably building Tommy Fury against Jake or who knows, against Logan, whatever. But Tommy Fury's on the card. But Amanda Serrano's on the card in a tremendous matchup against Mercado. The Ivan Baranchyk and Montana Love, ex-champion against undefeated, fighter who's from Cleveland. Terrific fight. And last year, Ivan fought the fight of the year from the Boxing Writers Association of America. And most boxing fans thought that was the fight of the year. And Charles Conwell's on the card. So the card's loaded with talent. So I'm heading to Cleveland to go see the fight. But I got to tell you, all that, I keep watching all these quote unquote boxing purists object to the crap that's getting force fed to us. Jake Paul's not our problem. He's not a problem.
No.
If and by the way, when I say that he's showing respect for our sport, I don't think there's any question but that he is. He works his tail off. He's gotten better. He's got BJ Flores and a top training team behind him. He's in the gym constantly. You know, Amanda was down there in Puerto Rico with Jordan Maldonado. They were in camp with him. And one of the things they came back saying was, you wouldn't believe how hard this guy works, you know? And I see him giving women an opportunity on his cards. I see him giving, you know, deserving fighters that don't have exclusive platforms here in the US opportunities to fight. I see him working hard and getting better. And honestly, like, I don't know what people's gripe is. You know, I think that this show on Sunday night is providing good content. And if people want to order it, which I would, you know, if I wasn't going, I'm going to Cleveland. But you know, I respect Jake Paul right now and what he's doing. I respect the people around them and how they're conducting themselves. But I mean, you know, it's not, I mean, I would say this about, look, I've been critical of situations where I think that it warrants it, but Jake Paul's not bad for boxing. If anything, he's good for boxing. And boxing has been bad for boxing. And maybe that's one of the reasons that the doors open for so many new players and new concepts, and frankly, some schlock. And I'm not talking about the Jake Paul show, but we've seen some of the crap that's out there in celebrity boxing or whatever, some of the stuff that's being pimped out there that's not safe or whatever. There's stuff I'm criticizing, but I don't see a lot of reason to criticize Jake Paul or what he's doing. And I think that Showtime Boxing getting involved with him is simply them having their finger on the pulse of what's going on that and what people want to see. And there's nothing non-competitive. There's nothing troubling about Jake Paul against Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley's a hell of an athlete, just until recently, fighting on the biggest platforms in MMA on earth, a solid stand-up fighter with punching power. And it's not like Jake Paul, you know, everyone wants to criticize Jake Paul because he's not Roy Jones Jr. in his prime. But then when he fights a guy that's a legitimate fighter, a legitimate MMA star, you know, his own right, a guy that figures to be competitive, people are looking for a reason to criticize also. For what reason? You know, he ain't my love child, but I have respect for him. And I think what he's doing right now, how he's handling his foray into the sport and the dedication he's showing to getting better and wanting to improve boxing. I do think he wants to improve boxing. There are a lot of fucking people I've worked with for 30 years in this industry that I've never seen that from. I've never seen any true desire to improve the sport. So no, I'm not going to fucking get on Jake Paul's case. And if people want to, if anyone wants to get troubled by the fact I've been somewhat complimentary, and I have been complimentary, then that's too fucking bad. There's reason to be complimentary, and I compliment other shows that are good and situations that are good. And you know, I'm not the kind of guy that holds my mouth if I feel something. So, you know, where there's something to be criticized, I'll be among the first to do it. But I got no problem with how this guy's handling his boxing career right now. And he's having a boxing career, whether the purists like it or not.
And we all rightly celebrate fighters that come from nothing and that scrape and try so hard to get where they are. Do you have a different kind of respect for a guy like Jake Paul, who doesn't have to box, but chooses to?
Yeah, I do have respect for it because it's a really hard sport. I'm flipping my London broil as I'm speaking. Just give me 1 second. It's a turkey London broil for those who are concerned about my health.
This is the start of our spin-off. Dibella does cooking.
I just flipped it. Back to, there we go. What was the question again, Danny? I was caught up in my London broil.
You're caught up in your culinary work. I said, do you have a different type of respect for someone like Jake Paul? And we've got Conor Benn here as well, similar situation in that they don't have to box, yet they choose to.
You know, they choose to. They don't have to. I do respect that. But I do respect, I think Conor wants to have a serious career. And I think Jake is acting like he wants to be a better boxer.
Yeah.
So, like, let me tell you something. The guy wants to fight. He wants to be in the gym constantly. Some of our biggest stars have barely fought in years now. Yeah. You're lucky with certain fighters that you see them once a year. And a lot of, like, quote unquote, like, straight boxing champions, right, spend more time talking about negotiations and money than they do fighting meaningful fights. You know, this is an easy time to be critical of a lot of the lack of competitiveness and lack of legacy fights occurring on a regular basis. We don't have enough of them. And boxing itself, traditional boxing, has to bear the responsibility for where it presently stands. And when we do have good fights, Jake Paul and others dragging new demographics, women, younger girls, young people in younger demos, dragging those people into boxing and exposing them to boxing only helps our better product when we put our best product out there. And when we don't put our best product out there, frankly, which is too much of the time, shame on us. Shame on us.
And before I let you go, we know it's a stacked undercard, but regarding the main event, what should we expect in the ring on Sunday night?
I think it's going to be a competitive fight in the main event. And if I were to bet it, I probably would bet Jake, because he spent a lot more time concentrating on boxing over the last couple of years. And I've seen noticeable improvement in him from fight to fight. You know, Woodley is a terrific athlete and a terrific fighter, has had a terrific fighting career, but much more of an MMA guy, where Jake's total focus has been improving as a stand-up boxer. So I probably favor Jake, but I think it's a real fight. I love the Baranchek Montana Love fight that's going to be on the televised undercard. Montana Love is a really good boxer, can move, not a huge puncher, but very skilled athlete. And Ivan's a beast. But Ivan also, a year ago, had a very, very, very grueling kind of war that often can take something away from a fighter. So I think the outcome is very much in doubt in that fight, but it's a good fight for Ivan and a good fight for Montana. The winner of that fight is going to elevate themselves immensely. You know, Dubois, Cusimano, a lot of people probably don't know Cusimano on your side of the pond. But, I mean, I'm very familiar with him, and he's not a great pure boxer, but he can punch like a mule. Yeah. You know, so it's not like, Dubois can't disregard him as easy fodder, because Cusimano's a very strong man, physically strong man. And he can punch. And I want to see Dubois fight here. I think, there's even a strong undercard off of television. Like, for people that are going into the stadium in Cleveland, they're going to see like Charles Conwell, who's a local Cleveland kid, fighting an undefeated fighter. It's a very strong card from top to bottom. The pay-per-view portion of the card is strong, and the main event, is competitive. And I think it's going to appeal to boxing fans, but certainly going to appeal to fans of Jake Paul and fans of MMA, that are curious to see. I think I've talked to a lot of my friends that are MMA fans. There's Topolita.
Hey.
I've talked to a lot of my friends that are MMA fans, and a lot of them are convinced that Woodley can win, and are interested in the fight as a competitive event. So I'm looking, I'm going to Cleveland. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be an experience. Jake and Logan Paul are from Cleveland, so it's their hometown. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm going to stop by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when I'm there. Nice. And there's some good food in Cleveland. I'm going to enjoy that. So I'm going to make the most of the next few days, and I think it'll be a good, entertaining show Sunday night. And how many of us have much better to do on a Sunday night? So
there is that, especially when the NFL's not back yet.
But we're getting close.
Final week of preseason yet?
Final week of preseason, yeah.
You excited? Have you seen much from your Giants that fills you with confidence?
They haven't played anybody in the preseason games, so I haven't seen much. I'm a little concerned about our offensive line. But you know what? Like every other season, being a diseased Giant fan, it starts with hope. It always starts with hope. All right, Danny, good talking to you, brother.